Being with you is your compassion.
Oh, that's so sweet.
What I need is desire. And then it's going to tie into this one.
Hey guys, and welcome to Little Black Book. You know what time it is. Talking to you guys, yes, about Married at First Sight. We're dealing with Gil and Myrla part 2. We are talking about intimacy and potentially the intimacy issues that could be faced by Gil and Myrla. Now, we already know that they have done some great work. We saw in the first part where I pointed it out, some great physical touches in there that are showing some signs of getting close and being vulnerable. But what Gil's talking about here is some vulnerability in the area of, like I said, the boundary between physical and sexual intimacy, a kiss or kissing, which can be determined by the recipient and the person who's giving it out also, whether this is more sexually based for them, or whether it's more of a case of physical appreciation and attraction. Kissing is one of those really weird things, because if you were to say kissing is sex, you wouldn't be comfortable, I'm sure, if your partner said let's have sex and then at the end of it all you did was kiss. Well, ladies might be, men might not be as so. So again, it really depends on how the person receives it and what they consider and weight it. And we already know that Myrla has said that sex for her, kissing for her, is a bit like sex. So let's talk a little bit more about intimacy and intimacy issues that they can be facing going forward by using the particular section where they spoke at length about their exercise. Well, guys, if you're new to the channel, do me a favor, like it, share, subscribe, click on that bell button for notification of the what uploads. And for those of you who are returnees, you already know what it is. You got the minerals, you got the minerals. Stay hydrated. Why? Because the streets out there are hot. All right, before we get the show going, let's get the outro going, baby. Oh, wrong thing. That's Ready to Love. Woo, baby.
Little Black Book, you know what time it is.
Now, you don't want to pull a Jose out here and call that Ready to Love when it really is Married at First Sight, because that will end badly. But just a little joke there. But yeah, we're talking about obviously Myrla and Gil and talking about the intimacy issues. And you know, when we talk about intimacy, the word can really get lost really, really quickly, especially when people can misunderstand what intimacy is. Now, I truly believe that intimacy breaks down into 5 or 6 particular groupings. So we have mental, spiritual, sexual, physical, financial, I think emotional as well, right? You have these different particular areas that work with intimacy. And intimacy is really about being able, as I love what I think it was someone said about into me you see. And really what it is it's an area of vulnerability, nakedness, okay? My ability to be naked. Most people know intimacy as sexual intimacy because they get naked physically. But there are other areas of nakedness where we can be vulnerable with one another and be absolutely open with the other party, okay? All right, that works in the financial. You can be open about your finances and money, what you get, what you have, and how you're going to spend it. You can be open about your emotions and how you feel and what you're feeling and how things make you feel. You can be open about your mental state and how you have thoughts and ideas and visions and ambitions for the future and for you and your partner. You can speak about, you can have physical intimacy where you can touch and be open with hugs and be cuddling and stuff like that and feel vulnerable in those particular states as well. And so the physical intimacy doesn't just reside on one area. If you do, you're going to miss the rest of the development of the actual full relationship, and you will be stunted in the particular growth. But dealing with Myrla and Gil, I think what we have is potentially an issue. And I say potentially. I always say this, when people say they take things slow, I always ask myself, why do they take it slow? If they haven't potentially always taken it slow. Well, I think Myrla has said that she does take it slow and potentially has always taken it slow. And so, it obviously is between the two people. Now, Gil is obviously exercising patience, but you can tell just by some of the things that he has said, his patience goes only to a certain point, which is why he said about if you don't kiss, the relationship is over. Okay, so there's a time limit to his patience, and therefore there's a rush almost on Myrla to get it together and actually kiss him, which he actually does in the end. But I really wanted to focus on the fact that on their actual exercise that they were doing on the show as well. So let's go to slightly back, okay? Because again, this here.
First one. Ooh, taste. Take a body shot.
Yeah, we're not gonna do that.
Why not?
I have never done body shots, and it's not something that I would want to do.
Now, I don't know if you've noticed something about Myrla, but I've noticed it twice now. When he asked her about kissing, no, we're not doing that now. When we talk about, obviously, now taking shots, we're not doing that now. There's a few things where she has said we're not doing that now, or no, I'm not interested, I'm not doing this. And there seems to be a lot of shutting down from Myrla if it's not in accordance with what she wants to do. But there was something more interesting in that clip if you didn't notice it. Look where she ends up. On her phone. When Myrla wants to get out of the conversation, lead it elsewhere, stop you from talking, stop you in your track, stop your progression, the phone comes out. Where did we see this also happen? We saw this with the massage on her feet. Whenever she feels she wants to switch the conversation, move it away and take it elsewhere, block the progression of the conversation, her phone comes out. Now, I don't know if that's her doing it on purpose. It might just be subconscious and subliminal that she does that. But I've noticed that, and I said, oh, okay, that may be one of her ways of being able to get out of the conversation when she feels it's going in a direction that she's not really feeling, right? But it can be interpreted as really, really rude. Now, has he done that? I don't know if he's interpreted it as being rude, but it can be interpreted as rude. That, when I'm having that conversation with you and submit a suggestion, you may not agree with it, but then to go on your phone suddenly as well, can be looked at a certain type of way. And so she says obviously no to the body shot. Why? Because it's something that may lead to sex, I'm assuming, right? Because she wants to control the speed that they enter into the sex particular behaviors. Again, I don't necessarily have a problem with that. If the two of them can agree on a time period and time slot. I think right now what we're seeing though is Gil is not even getting a kiss, and it could be thinking to himself, when would if I can't even get a kiss, we don't even do body shots on the body, it's not nothing deep, but you are uncomfortable in that area. Maybe she's uncomfortable with her body. We don't know. These are this could also be reasons why someone has intimacy issues. They may be uncomfortable with their body, they may be uncomfortable with being naked, they may be uncomfortable with him touching her in such a way, right? Someone might have some feelings about being touched on their body in a certain way. And so they create these barriers of, I'm actually really slow, or I don't want to be touched, or we're not doing that. You know what I mean? And it could be that there's an area of fear in being vulnerable in the touching area, being touched in a certain way. There could be a vulnerability there. There could be an insecurity there as well. So that may stop that progression of conversation or progression of behavior going towards there. But I think it's really interesting because very similarly, when it came to what's happened after, watch this, how she goes, she denies nothing.
All right, well, I'll still leave it there just in case. Oh, I like this one. Blindfold.
I'm not blindfolding
Look.
my lashes.
So we're also not blindfolding because of lashes. We also were not going to join in with the game. With the smashing of items at the end either from Myrla. When Myrla decides that she's not doing something, that's it. It's done. It's like it's dunnage, and it can seem a little bit anti, and that can also erode the need and the want to be number one, desired, which is what he wanted from her, to be desired. But it could also as well erode the conversation or the energy to want to be intimate because the person doesn't want to come on your wavelength ever at all, right? It's like, no, I'm not interested. No, I'm not. And that rejection can be very, very much disheartening and actually doesn't promote a good level of intimacy when every time that you don't want to do something, you say no, right? Because it can look a bit selfish in that particular aspect. I'm not saying that's what it is exactly, but I'm saying that there's a hint of that it could be going towards that particular area. Let's watch a bit more of the clip.
Golly. This is like pulling teeth. But I'm definitely not gonna give up. We're physically attracted to one another and we have tons of chemistry.
And now he admits, obviously, we're very much attracted to each other, and we have tons of chemistry, which is a bonus because it means that now that he can tell that she really does like him. Or at least she has a strong liking for him, which means now he can make some certain moves based upon her behavior, right? I love to see the very end as well. At the very end, well, no, sorry, sort of very end, but towards the end of their particular date, when they were hugging and showing some level of intimacy, this was also a beautiful moment.
It feels good to take.
Now, she loved that, it feels good to take deep breaths with my husband, etc., etc. Now, it's obviously clear that Myrla highly places emotional intimacy and even physical intimacy when it regards to cuddling, because she said herself after this, I love cuddling. So physical intimacy isn't the issue. She hasn't got a problem with necessarily being touched. We saw that with the earlier on where she was holding his hand and stuff like that. Those kind of touches are fine. It's the touches that lead to sex that are an issue. So kissing is one of those things that she feels leads to sex, so she's taking it off the table. So before the flow of the interaction between the two of them can go to a sexual level, she'll lock it off. She'll lock off anything that is a stepping stone to that area because she feels that she's not ready. Now, that could be a positive, that can be a negative, how you look at it. It's positive because at the end of the day, it's her body and, she wants to take it at her pace. But it also can be a negative because it's also as well, like I said, the word control. You want to control how things play out. And that can also be an irritant and a deterrent for a lot of men because we're like, you're not going with the flow right now. You're kind of dictating to me how you want to make it run. And in some sense, that doesn't promote that fostering of good vibes and energy, right? From the men's side, at least, how we're thinking about it. But what I did love is the fact that, they were able to have moments like this where they can look at each other. He can hold their chin.
Like we about to kiss, like this.
But no, our noses
like that.
Way.
Like that. Yeah.
Respect to the king, man. They touched foreheads. He got close. They both looked at each other in the eye. They both recited some words. They were creating and fostering that emotional intimacy, that physical intimacy. And hopefully it's going to get closer to the sexual intimacy, which is what she agreed with. She said, yep, it's getting closer to the sexual intimacy. I think, Myrla is somebody that needs to feel safe. Okay, I'm going to say this very, very clear, though. Because it is a show that is a marriage show, okay, they've obviously chosen someone who's going to be patient with her. Had this been real life, this might not be the same. The person might not have the same energy nor the same vim to want to wait a paramount amount of time. So the thing works for here, the experiment, because the experiment has a time limit, 8 weeks. But in real life, no one has really a time limit. And so therefore, the person who's a man could pick up and walk with his mat at any given time. If he feels that it's going on too long, he might switch targets. Now, someone might say, well, if he's not the one for you, then he wouldn't have. But sometimes you're going too slow like a tortoise and you need to be sped up. And so in the real world, this might not necessarily work. This pace might not necessarily work, but in this experiment, it's a beautiful pace. And he's willing to go alongside with it. So we appreciate Gil for that. You know what I'm saying? Like he's not trying to necessarily rush her, but he's letting her know his boundaries himself. He's got his own boundaries, etc. So I again, in this particular scene, when I see them, good vibes.
What I love about being with you is waking up next to you every morning. What I need from you is your continued patience.
So she's obviously, with their heads together, again, this is again fostering that emotional connection, staying close to one another, touching one another, getting each other used to each other's touch. She's expressed that, she needs his continued patience. Now, he can continue his patience if he feels there's a reward at the end. If he feels that there's no reward at the end, or there's not a reward that's befitting of the action, then he won't want to pursue. But because he sees there's a suitable reward at the end, and he spotted a gem in the rough, he spotted a diamond in the rough, that will allow him to want to keep pursuing. That will allow him to want to keep moving. That will allow him to want to keep going after, because he realizes the reward is actually attainable. Now, it's when men feel like the reward is unattainable, they stop chasing. Do you feel me? So I'm gonna leave it there. I think what he said about her words being about her being compassionate was a beautiful take as well. You know, and I think they have a good chance of going far. I think they have a good chance of making it. And like I said, even in the scene, even though she was rejecting some of the movements, she was still open to others. She was still open to touch. She was still open to you know, she was still open to his advances in the area of physical touch rather than sexual, which again, I can't blame her. You know what I'm saying? What I would say is that if on the outside, it might be slightly different. With all different pressures that come in left, right, and center, it might have been slightly different. It might not have been. But yeah, guys, I'm going to leave it there. Nice and short. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Click on the bell button for notification of what? Uploads. For those of you who are returnees, you already know what it is, baby. You got the minerals. You got the minerals.
You know what time